Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, and today we're going to start going into part two of a three-part series. Part one, I tried to cover the basics of deciding, is there a need in your area, how to get set up, how to get credit cards, how to get paid, stuff that you need to know when it comes to getting a business name, sales tax ID, and today we're going to talk about location and the building. See, that's going to be one of probably your biggest expenses, is deciding on how big you want to be. If you're just going to be working out of your garage, something that's already there, great. But for most people, once they get into this business, it requires a larger building to start stocking stuff. And you want to have it in a good location where it's readily accessible by the public. Of course, the closer you get to downtown, the more expensive it's going to get. So you really need to look at how much are the buildings that would fit your need for the shop. And if you're going to do a one-man band where you're going to be the business owner and the guy that does the repairs, I mean, you can do it out of a 12 by 20 shed. But if you're going to do it like what we do it, then you're going to need at least 2 bays to work in. And our bays are 10 foot by 30 foot. And what you're going to find is when you start working in these bays is that you can't stock all the parts for every brand that's out there. You can we're going to go through some of the most common stuff. Excuse me. We're going to go through some of the most common stuff, but the idea when you're doing a repair business is you're always going to have 1 or 2 machines sitting in there that need parts. So your mechanic starts on the first one. Alright, so he may need to have you order an air breather for that machine to finish it up, or a set of blades, or some belts for it. You tuck that aside, mechanic starts on number 2. Gets down to what he needs for that one. Maybe he needs blades, maybe he needs to replace the drive belt. You're always going to have 2 or 3 machines waiting on parts, but you always have to have something that you're working on. So you need enough space to have this stuff so it's not sitting outside in the weather if it needs air breathers and stuff like that. Location is big. I've always said, it's kind of like the field of dreams. If you build it, they'll come. If you have a great shop, great personality, and you're there for the customer, they will find you. And you may have to do what we do. We have pickup and drop-offs. There is a fee, but just enough to cover our fuel and maybe a little bit of time. So that's the other thing too, is if you're out there picking up and dropping off, who's running the shop? And you can lose a lot of business that way too. If somebody's not there to answer the phone, or just simply take messages or set up appointments. The bigger you are, the more of a need that you have to have it. When we were really rolling, I had one secretary that would knock your socks off, and she knew her parts, she knew everything, and she was great on the phone with our customers. Our customers loved her. And I think she sold more product because of her outgoing attitude. I finally had to say goodbye to her. She was my niece, because she wanted to better herself and go back to college for nursing. And that's one thing that I've always never done, is I always try to help people that are trying to make better for themselves. And I told her, I said, if you think you can do it, go for it. If not, I'll still have a slot here for you anytime if it doesn't work out. All right, so if it's a one-man operation, it's gonna become hard when you start figuring in your time to go pick up stuff, bring it back, find the time to work on it, then find the time to get it back to the customer, and then waiting for payments to come in. You got to be careful unless you know the individual personally, because once you take that mower, snowblower, or what have you back to the customer and drop it off with a bill attached to it, you've lost the mechanic lien because now it's back on their physical property. We do not return anybody's lawnmower or snowblower or what have you here until it's paid up front. They can pay with a credit card over the phone if it's convenient for them. I call each and every one that's the stuff is done to let them know that it's done, that they can stop in to pay us, or they can pay online, they can pay over the phone, as I discussed in part 1. So keep that in mind, that the only hold that you have against the customer would be a mechanic's lien, and that is just simply stating that that machine is yours until what you have been owed is paid. Simple as that. If you're in a location where you don't need to offer pickup and drop off because people are close, if you're down in the city area, you're probably going to see push mowers, snow blowers, and you're not going to see too many riders. If you're out towards the rural area, if you're out in the rural area, you're probably going to see more riders because people have bigger yards and stuff. And don't forget the landscapers. Those guys are pretty steady income. And especially if you can get hooked up with a few of them that are constantly needing something fixed or parts, And even if you offer them a little bit better price on the parts than what you do your normal customers, because they're a return business for you. Alright, so the second thing in this video I want to cover is the must-have tools and the want tools. And the must-have tools are a way to get the oil filter off. You're going to want to have either the channel locks that you can hook onto them. They make the rubber strap type, and they also make the socket that slides over to black plastic to take them off with. We use the pliers that are the oil filter pliers. You can get those at Harbor Freight. You're going to need a good complete set of sockets. And I recommend going out and buying the socket set that has 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2 inch drive in it. It's going to need to have your common sockets for spark plugs. You're going to need a good plier set, a good vice grip needle nose pliers. You're going to need some type of oil pan to collect the oil, and then a bigger container to dump it into for used waste oil. Screwdrivers, and I would suggest a spark tester and a compression tester. All those things can be had at Tractor Supply or Harbor Freight or Craftsman, whatever. You don't need to go heavily in debt on tools with the must-have. You're probably talking maybe a couple $100. The want category is a little bit more expensive because you're going to want to have, your must-have is going to also include a air compressor, whether it be a pancake or portable. In our shop, I have the uprights that are permanent. What we use a lot, and that's in the want category, is we have actually a lawnmower jack system where you can drive the lawnmower right up on it, the front tires, jack it up so that you can easily access the cleaning of the deck, changing of the blades or taking them off to sharpen them, putting them back on. You can set that all back down afterwards. Um, when you're checking the belts and all that stuff, you're just looking for wear. It's on the want list that we use a lot. You know, you don't need to have it when you first start off, but if you're doing a lot of stuff, using the wrenches is crazy. So what we have is we have the 3/8 20 volt DeWalt impact wrench, and spins them on, spins them off. We also have them right up to the 1/2 inch DeWalt 20 volt, that's the impact. So that's another thing to look at as you start getting your shop set up. Is DeWalt makes a great impact wrench. It's not the little drivers, it's the impact wrench themselves, and they run right now like 2 to 400 depending on where you find it. When it comes to oil, we use 10W30 in all of our lawn and garden stuff. So, you know, if Walmart, they have the 10W30, 10W40 is fine as well. Once you get into the diesels and stuff, then you got to get something heavier than that. But most of you guys aren't going to encounter diesel Kubotas and, you know, compact tractors. You guys are doing just the small riders. If you do encounter some compacts that are diesel, make sure that you understand that there is a heavier viscosity oil for the diesel than there is for the gas engines. And inventory. What are you going to carry for inventory? Well, you're going to carry the common spark plugs. You're going to carry common fuel filter. You're going to carry some of the common air filters. But remember, as I said, you can't cover the whole gauntlet of machines that are out there, or you'd have thousands of dollars of inventory invested in inventory. And in the beginning, I suggest that you start off with your needs. You know, even if the customer has to wait a couple of days to get it, where you have to go to the auto parts and get the plugs and an air filter, or go online and order them, or go to your distributor or wholesaler if you set up with them to get it sent to you. Most of the distributor and wholesalers that I deal with have it. If I order it today, well, today's Sunday, but if I ordered it Monday morning, it would be here by Tuesday night at the latest. UPS. That's how fast they can get it to you. You'd have the parts to start up to get customers' machines out with. Don't go heavily into debt, into inventory. That's what I've said before. Be leery when it comes to floor planning, because a lot of the stuff that's in that floor plan, when it comes to inventory, that MTD wants you to carry, or Cub Cadet wants you to carry, or Troy-Bilt wants you to carry, you know, Kohler, the list goes on. A lot of their stuff I found, especially MTD, I still have a lot of their stuff here when I first floor planned with them. And that was back in 2008. See, that's what I mean. You have to pay for it, and they don't care whether you saw it or not. And a lot of the stuff they give you is for older machines now. It's outdated. So be very, very careful on inventory. And don't get too excessive of inventory, because as machines change, inventory changes as well. And unless you want to be in a business where you're selling new old stock. You know, pick your suppliers, and also don't be afraid to check on eBay and Amazon for parts that you may need. What I'm finding is, you know, for a home light carburetor that we get through one of our distributors for $60, I can buy for $14, $15 on eBay with free shipping. And it usually comes with a fuel filter, hoses, you know, miscellaneous stuff in it. So, and you can mark that up as well, you know, because you're going to get hit with taxes and everything else, even with a business. Terminology. You know, what do I mean by terminology? I've talked about it in other videos, and I'll bring it up briefly here. Floor planning is when you want to get set up with an individual manufacturer. And let's say MTD Cub Cadet, because MTD and Cub Cadet, they're basically the same company. for parts. They're going to want to come in and sell you at different levels to get you to buy more and more and more. You know, if you want to be the diamond level, I think for Briggs was like $12,000 or $16,000 inventory. And a lot of these companies do not like competition in the same location. Remember, don't let them run your business. It's your business. You're not running their business, so why should they run your business? You know, there's rules that you have to follow, you know, and one is liability insurance and one is fire insurance. So if something happens in their inventory, but you're still going through GE Finance. And there's a lot of misconceptions. Well, I only have to pay the interest on it. No, you don't. When you sign up and GE Finance approves you as a dealer, you are technically buying that stock. The manufacturer, distributor, wholesaler for that company has been paid. You're left holding the bag. And that kind of goes with if you decide to get into the stocking so many lawnmowers, so many snow blowers, so many weed eaters a year, that plan that you decided on, you know, if you pick a plan where they give you 10 different riding lawnmowers to sell and you only sell 5, that means the following year when you have to buy 10 more, now you've got 15 that you've got to sell that year. You see where I'm going with it? And they don't send you their top sellers. They send you stuff that they want to get rid of, basically. But that's different than pre-season orders. Pre-season orders are you pick and choose what you want. And you get a percentage off based on how much money your pre-season order is. They'll want to do a credit check on you, even with floor planning. They'll want you to fill out a credit app. That's the first thing they'll do. And pre-season orders, that you pick what you want, but most of these companies will give you like 2 to 3 month grace period. And then after that, you need to have it paid in full. So if you're picking out pre-season for the whole year, 365 days a year, then you have to figure out somehow of how you're going to have that paid for within about 2 to 3 months from the time of the order. Because the distributors are not going to want to sit on a credit account with you. Whereas with the floor planning, that is actually you're financed for the stuff that's coming in. You own it. With preseason, you can return, but there's enough of a discount that you might better give it away and send it back. I'm just trying to be honest with you guys that haven't gotten into it yet. What I would do is, because we talked about having a niche in your area, you know, competing shops and stuff, I would personally go talk with them and ask them how they're doing things. That was what I first did when I first got into this. And what I did, it was instead of making them my competitors, I made them my partners. And if there was something that I didn't have or my customer wanted, I would call them and ask them and send that customer over to them to get that. And they would do the same with me. We work together, you know, and be careful of when you have customers coming in bad-mouthing other shops, because good chances are if you say something bad about one of the other shops, that person's going to go to the next shop and repeat like a parrot. Usually, you know, the old adage, if you haven't got anything good to say, don't say anything at all. But I would try to become friends, good friends and partners with the other businesses that are doing the same thing, and see if they can't take you under the wing and kind of give you a little bit of guidance, because every area is different. You know, I'm just talking in general. You're going to have to figure out the specifics in your area of what you need and how to go about it. But I would stay with the newer model parts, the stuff that are tried and true on all of them, even the new ones that are coming out with the spark plugs and so forth, and not get too heavily into the inventory side of trying to cover all these models that you've had in here before, because you're going to see a gentle shift from where you saw a lot of Cub Cadets with the 42-inch cut, where they updated that model to a 42-inch cut, but the belts are different, the air filter is different, the engine's different. You see what I'm saying? So if you get heavily invested into a lot of inventory, if you let salespeople talk you into a lot of inventory, you may end up sitting on it. And debt is what kills so many businesses. Is they it's all or nothing. They go head over tea kettle into it. Instead of taking the tortoise and the hare, where the tortoise, take your time, build as you go. Well, so hopefully with this part 2 and part 1 that you guys are learning something or getting something out of it. You know, that's what my goal is try to help you out. And as I said in part 1, if you have any questions, please ask. Use the comment section. The only dumb question is the one that's not asked, because good chances are if you're thinking of that question, then so are a bunch of other people that aren't sure but don't want to ask the question either. Ask away. For you shops that are in business already and doing good, chime in. Let them know, you know, what you do and how you do it. You know, that even maybe you might, I'm never too old to learn myself. So on that note, you guys have a great day, and I'll try to get part 3 out as quick as possible. All right, thanks so much for watching.